matter what I do, no matter how hard I try,
Spider-Man killed my father. He this guy dead.
it's the ones I love who will always be the ones who pay.
I can't keep thinking about you. I'm getting married.
I want a life of my own. I'm Spider-Man. No more.
Ladies and gentlemen, today you will witness the birth of a new energy source.
I like seeing it in that, Peter. You take Spider-Man's pictures. Where is he?
I believe there's a hero in all of us. Even though sometimes we have to give up the thing we want the most.
Behind the mask.
So how many of you were like you when you saw that trailer for the first time and you saw that scene where Harry pulls off the mask? How many of you thought that that was not going to be Peter Parker underneath it? You thought maybe that Peter was going to put like a dead body there or something? Maybe for a cruel, dark joke, put the dead body of his father there. But I mean, it is a Sam Raimi movie. It wouldn't be that surprising if he went for a little bit of some dark comedy there. But no, of course, that was actually him in the actual movie. So it's kind of a spoiler for the film itself. But because this movie is so good, it really takes away from the fact that it really does become an off because of an issue that's not as important as the movie itself. Because the movie Spider-Man 2 is pretty damn good. I mean, this is, at this point, this was Marvel at their absolute best, and it's really not that hard to see why. You have a story that's set 2 years after the events of Spider-Man, where Peter Parker has struggled to manage both his personal life and his duties as Spider-Man, and he's introduced to Dr. Otto Octavius, played by Alfred Molina, who takes a turn for the diabolical following a failed experiment with his wife's death. Using his mechanical tentacles, Octavius is dubbed Dr. Octopus and threatens to endanger the lives of New York City's residents. And Spider-Man must stop him from annihilating the city, but also going through these different situations, dealing with Harry, of course, dealing with Mary Jane, who's getting married to this guy who it feels like they were trying to set up as Venom, but it never really went anywhere. But a lot of the majority of the plot elements are taken from the Spider-Man story arc, Spider-Man No More, which was based off of a 1967 Amazing Spider-Man story. And much like with Blade 2 and X-Men 2, all the flaws in Spider-Man 2 are not only fixed in here, but they boost the movie to make it, at that point, Marvel's strongest sequel they had done at one of the best superhero movies ever made. I mean, keep in mind, this was just a couple of years before the MCU really took off and showed what Marvel can really do with a major with a good comic adaptation. I mean, this was at a good point in time to be at, and it benefits from having a more prominent direction from Sam Raimi, who's been a longtime Spider-Man fan and gets the chance to show. He wants to make the Spider-Man movie he wanted to see, and it definitely shows on here. Which makes no sense why they decided to screw him over with the third film, but we'll get to that one eventually. But great cast again. You know, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane Watson, James Franco, newcomers. Alfred Molina is very good as Doc Octopus. We get a lot of character development out of all these characters, and with a sequel, we need to get further development on those characters so we can get a better purpose of liking them and seeing their story continue from the previous film. Everything is much bigger in this film, but what a good sequel should do, like a story, the plot that's much bigger, and it senses that there's a lot at stake this time around that there was in the first movie. We can go along with it and hope the hero comes out as the victor. The third act, I think, is great. It's one of the strongest third acts I've ever seen for a movie, where there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of surprises, there's a sense of danger in all aspects, and you know, also sides of people that you never expect to see, especially during the subway scene where everybody sees Peter as who he is, and you know, they could have easily just said, "Hey, this is Spider-Man, right? This kid is Spider-Man," but no, they're just like, you know, you get, but no, they're protective of him, and it's very refreshing too, because New Yorkers always get a bad rap in general. Maybe they do. I've never been to New York. I've wanted to visit New York before in my. I've wanted to visit New York before, but I've never gotten the chance to. But this movie at least tries to show that, hey, not everybody in New York is a complete asshole. Whether that's real life is hard to tell, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say here. Quite frankly, Spider-Man 2 does give you everything you want in the sequel and then some. A bigger story, bigger character development, a story that we could stick and get behind. It was at that point where Marvel was really at the peak of what they could do as a studio in general, with these studios behind them, and it made for one of the best superhero movies ever made. And I think it really opened the door for a lot of people for what comic book movies can really be, because the following year, Christopher Nolan would take what Spider-Man 2 did and take it to the next level with Batman, but we're about a year away from that, of course. But Spider-Man 2 is a great movie. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. So with that said, let's get to some of the smaller movies. Some smaller movies, but some notable movies that came out to compete with Spider-Man 2 in the limited market. I mean, not everybody was going to get to see it because everyone wanted to go see it. So here's a couple movies that tried to go and compete with Spider-Man 2 and mostly succeeded for the most part. Let's start with the first one. And Harry Osborn's father, Willem Dafoe, isn't too far away because he's in the next movie. We have Robert Redford and Helen Mirren, along with Willem Dafoe, in The Clearing.
You
were told no FBI.
No, I told them to stay away.
They're all over the hotel.
How many times have you fired that gun, hon?
I want to hear his voice. Do you hear me?
Do you have any idea what it's like to see your life fall apart?
I understand.
And just like in the last Spider-Man movie, Willem Dafoe's the villain in here. After decades of a happy marriage and a life surrounded by luxury and wealth, Robert Redford plays a successful car rental businessman with his lovely wife Eileen, played by Dame Helen Mirren, and they're looking forward to a tranquil and comfortable retirement. However, the dreams of a peaceful life come tumbling down like a house of cards when at gunpoint, Arnold Mack, played by Willem Dafoe, a disgruntled former employee, abducts Wayne in broad daylight right in front of his mansion in Pittsburgh. Suddenly, the fate of the accomplished entrepreneur and seasoned negotiator rests entirely in the hands of his nervous yet ruthless kidnapper, who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. This is Wayne's most important negotiation in his life, but he had the strength to succeed. Maybe Wayne did, but this movie didn't. This film did not get the best reviews in general and didn't really do a whole lot at the box office, bringing in about $12.5 million for a film that has a cast that includes Robert Redford, Helen Mirren, Willem Dafoe. You expect a whole lot bigger and better than this, but unfortunately, the film really doesn't really go to those levels that it should with a cast this good. That was another event for a television director making his big screen debut, Peter John Brugge, who is mostly associated with television, but he's also been known as a producer too. He's produced a lot of things, including, most notably, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. That was the film he started off with. Then he did stuff like Heat, Bulworth, The Insider, Consenting Adults, Fatal Instinct. Like, he produced a lot of different movies overall, and this was his first attempt as a director, and his last attempt, because I don't think he directed, I'm pretty sure he didn't direct anything else of noteworthiness since this. No, he did not. He just went back to producing after this, but he's done a lot of work in television and movies, and there's possibilities for what he could do as a director, but it needed a better story to work with here. We've seen this type of story done before numerous times. You know, the guy that takes somebody else out into the middle of the woods to go out and try to kill him or something like that. The Edge was like that with Alec Baldwin and Sean Connery. And here, I think it takes itself way too seriously. There's a lot of times in this movie where it really does feel like they are just begging hard for that Academy Award for these actors, and it just doesn't work in general. And it's a shame because there's a lot of good talent here. There's an idea that maybe could work here, but unfortunately, the film goes down as about as predictable of a route as you could possibly get, and it really hurts the movie in the long run. It's just not a very good movie, man. It's just not a very good film indeed, So that is The Clearing. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Kevin Kline and Ashley Judd in the musical biopic, DeLovely.
To the pop of champagne.
MGM Pictures proudly presents the story of a man
who gave the world something to sing about.
The song's about obsession. It's about being in love.
Kevin Kline, Ashley Judd, in an Irwin Winkler film. With performances by Sheryl Crow, Natalie Cole, Robbie Williams, Elvis Costello, Diana Krall, and Alanis Morissette.
It's the royal, it's the ritz, it's the lovely.
Well, the music might be lovely, but the movie is, again, kind of like The Clearing, not so much. DeLovely is an original musical portrait of American composer Cole Porter, played by Kevin Kline, filled with unforgettable songs. In the film, Porter is looking back on his life as if it was one of his spectacular stage shows, with the people and events of his life becoming the actors in action on stage. Through elaborate production numbers and popular hits like Anything Goes, It's DeLovely, Night and Day, Porter's elegant, excessive past comes to light, including his deeply complicated relationship with his wife and muse, Linda Lee Potter, played by Ashley Judd. Directed by Irwin Winkler, who is another one, kind of like Peter John Brew. He's a great producer, but as a director, he has not been as successful as he probably could be. I mean, there's a lot of movies he's made that we've talked about on the show. We talked about all of his movies: Guilty by Suspicion, Night in the City, The Net, At First Sight, Life is a House. None of these movies were really groundbreaking films in general, and there's definitely a lot that what you could do with this film in general, especially with Kevin Kline as Cole Porter. Kevin Kline will usually turn anything into something great, even if it's not that great of a movie. But here, it really just feels like they're just trying to create a new generation Amadeus. That's the thing that I always kept thinking of when I saw this movie. It's just like, it feels like this is Cole Porter's Amadeus. I think it's like Cole Porter's Amadeus, and it just really is not that great of a film that wastes a lot of really good talent in this movie. Like, you see it in the trailer there, who's involved with the soundtrack for this movie. You know, you got Robbie Williams, Alanis Morissette, Sheryl Crow, Elvis Costello, you know, Diane Krall, like Natalie Cole. You got Natalie Cole in this movie, man, and like, yeah, it just feels like the movie was trying to sell just the performances alone instead of actually selling the movie and selling a story that could be told in a much better light. I think it has been told in a much better version with Night and Day, which starred Cary Grant back in the day. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I can tell you that it's what they did there. From what I saw of it, was definitely a lot better than what I saw here, and it pains me to say that because I do like Kevin Kline a lot. I do like Ashley Judd a lot, but unfortunately, the movie itself is just pretty much your typical. It's not even your typical musical biopic, like what a musical biopic is nowadays. It's just kind of like, it's an ambitious idea, but it just can't get past the feeling that they're trying so hard to create the next Amadeus. It felt like, because there's a lot of elements on Amadeus there. You know, Cole Porter talking about his life back in the day, and like talking about the muses and the memories of his young life in general. But it just really feels that way. It feels like there's so much more that can be done here, and it just doesn't deliver when it's all said and done. And it's a shame, because the pieces are definitely there. There's an engaging story here, but it just didn't work in the long run, unfortunately. So yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the sequel to Before Sunrise, Before Sunset.
So listen, here's the deal. This is what we should do. You should get off the train with me here in Vienna. Come check out the town. What? Come on, that'll be fun. All right. Hey, think of it like this. Jump ahead 10, 20 years, and you're married. Only your marriage doesn't have that same energy that it used to have. You start to think about all those guys you've met in your life, and what might have happened if you picked up with one.
Let me get my bag.
9 years ago, two strangers met by chance and spent a night in Vienna that ended before sunrise. They are about to meet for the first time since.
Hi.
Hello.
You know, Richard Linklater having himself a pretty good year in general, with School of Rock coming out just 6 months beforehand. Then he comes up with the sequel to Before Sunrise here, and if you remember Before Sunrise, it's the story about these two people who reunite in they go to Vienna and spend a whole day together, and they never see each other again. But in this movie, it's them reuniting 9 years later in Paris, and it's pretty much the same movie again, but You know, it's just... I've talked about this trilogy in written form on the website, but these movies really are amazing, man. Like, the fact that they can do pretty much the same thing that they did in the last movie, but they do it so well to, you know, because now it's been 9 years. It's been 9 years since the last movie we saw these two together. You know, things have changed. They've gone on to these relationships. They've gone on to have these different things, and then they say, you know, let's just spend the day together, and you're spending the day with them. It's kind of like, it's the equivalent of something like My Dinner with Andre or Midnight in Paris, a movie that just, it doesn't really have to do a whole lot because you like the characters that you have to deal with here, even though they're just mostly two people for the most part. And Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy just work off each other so well, and it just plays so beautifully for what they're trying to go for here in the film. And they also use their own real-life situations to this, but, you know, Ethan Hawke, you know, he had just gotten through a divorce with Uma Thurman, and they came together, they incorporated elements of their lives into the screenplay, and that's the beautiful thing about the film in general, is that it takes place in real time. It doesn't have to do anything too big or too extravagant to really keep you invested in what's going on, and that's the beautiful thing about the movie in general, is that you could just sit there watching these two getting back together and just talking about where they've been in the last 10 years, and you get so attached to it, and you get so invested in what they're doing because you like these characters a lot. I mean, like I said before, it's like My Dinner with Andre. I mean, you're just sitting there watching these two guys talking about life and the world itself and, like, all these problems they have, but you're so fascinated by it because the characters are really interesting, their situations they're talking about are very interesting, and you're so hooked to what they're talking about. And in this case, you got that, plus the beautiful scenery of Europe in general, like where the places that they go to here. It's an incredible, incredible film. It's a really wonderfully put together movie. This trilogy as a whole is absolutely amazing. The fact that they've done 3 of these movies, and they all still have the same idea to them, but they're so investing because it is pretty much kind of you know what it also reminds me of, now that I think about it? You ever see the Up series where they talk in the 1960s? You got this director talking to these 7 kids in general at 7 years old, and they keep following them every 7 years. Like, you'll have 14 up, 21 up, 28, 30, 35. That's how is the 42, 49. You get the idea. You get so invested with these characters with these people because, you know, you've been following them since the very beginning when they were 7 years old and they got taken part of this documentary. And, you know, after all these years later, those documentaries still hold up to this very day. That's what this kind of reminds me of. Every couple of years, you meet up with these people again. You want to know what they've been doing these last couple of years, and you really get invested, like I said, with how these people have done in the last almost 10 years. I mean, it's a really engaging film, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but these are just great movies in general, and movies that I don't think get the proper attention they deserve. They're really terrific films. It just shows how much Richard Linklater can do as a director as a whole, because he can make these mainstream movies like School of Rock and then Bad News Bears, but you remember he's still pretty good at directing independent stuff like this and Days to Confuse and Everybody Wants Some, you know, these smaller movies. Boyhood is another example of a movie that feels like it's going to take the same route as the Before Sunrise series. Well, they'll meet each other again in about, 20? I think the original film was like 12 years. I think it's just going to be, I think they're trying to do a sequel where they do the same thing for the next 12 years, but I don't know for certain, but that's another great movie too, and, yeah, what more could I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It's just a really, really amazing film. These movies are criminally underrated films. I highly recommend checking them out because they are indeed worth it. Before Sunset, definitely the pick of the week easily, besides Spider-Man 2, of course. But, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie here, which is a Disney documentary called America's Heart and Soul.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a unique motion picture experience that will take you on a breathtaking journey across the nation to meet the people who make up the heart and soul of America.
I've been a bicycle messenger for 10 years. I can reach over my handlebars and close the door if it's opening on me.
Music is my life, and it just takes me higher and higher.
The thing about working 7 days a week is you don't have to worry going back to work on Monday when Sunday comes. Don't dread it, you know.
When I saw the Met for the first time, to look at it and go, that's my dream, I want to sing there.
My name is Eric Weinmeyer. I love to climb mountains. That's pretty wild, I guess, for a blind person.
Experience the incredible story of America, told one person at a time. America's heart and soul.
Because of course you're going to release a movie like this on 4th of July weekend. If you release it on like Canadian Thanksgiving, it would seem kind of off and weird. But I don't know. Part of this does look like something that Fox News probably would do nowadays. But you know, Disney did it first, and I guess they were I feel like they were trying to do this to counter-program Fahrenheit 9/11, which they had under Miramax, but then of course the Weinsteins took it somewhere else. But this is the documentary about America, which they describe as a vast country, 3,000 miles from end to end, but it's not the land that makes America so special, it's the people, which is true. Filmmaker Louis Schwartzberg packs up his camera and hits the road with the goal of capturing both the unparalleled beauty of the land and the incomparable spirit of the people. He connects with people, capturing their values, dreams, and passions in a journey that reveals the stories unusual, captivating, inspiring, and emotional that makes Americans into something more than a collection of individuals. It's a celebration of a nation told through the voices of its people. Which I guarantee if you do this 20 years from now, America, the way they find America, and this is going to feel a whole lot different than this movie is. Which I wanted to bring this up because I haven't seen this movie, but there is an interesting story about Disney and America and what they were going to do. If you've ever seen Defunctland, there's a great video that goes into this in complete detail about how Disney was going to open up this area in Virginia called Disney's America. This was something that was in part of the Michael Eisner Disney decade that never really went anywhere. And it would have consisted of 9 different distinctly themed areas, featured hotel, housing, golf course, nearly 2 million square feet of retail and commercial development. It was an idea that was supposed to be much smaller than the Disney theme parks, but it was a $650 million project and was supposed to open in '98. And they had initial support, but it faced a lot of opposition from citizens groups and historians who objected to Disney's planned portrayal of historical events, and especially considering that this was around the time that Euro Disney was not doing so well, was actually a bust. Not to mention the death of Frank Wells, the head of the company, rising costs, the prospects of reduced profits, with the park being closed for 4 months each year. Yeah, it basically never happened, and it really was one of those things, one of those first real moments where Disney, who was having a hot streak, was starting to feel like the pressure was getting to them, especially for Michael Eisner, who, after Frank Wells died, kind of really fell off of what made him so promising in the original first decade of his tenure. But, of course, Knott's Berry Farm tried to retheme it and revive the concept, and that didn't really go anywhere in general. But, and eventually they did put some elements to it in Disney's California Adventure in 2001 when that opened up. But I wanted to bring that up because that was something that is very much not related to this movie in general. But I thought that was kind of an amusing story, and I kind of butchered it in some way, shape, or form. But if you do want to know more about it, I'll put a link to Defunctland's video he did on this a couple years ago, because it does a much better job of talking about what this America could have been like. But as far as this documentary goes, it's nothing I really remember. I mean, it's something that I only saw like a ad for it in the newspaper. Never had any real intentions of seeing it, which I never did. But this looks kind of generic, and like I said, it does feel like something that Fox News probably would produce nowadays for Fox Nation. But I mean, this is something that Disney did back in the day, and it didn't really leave much of a lasting impact, and kind of like faded into obscurity not too long after it came out. So yeah, not much more to say about that one because I haven't seen it. So that is America's Heart and Soul by Disney.
Years of evolution have all led to one magnificent specimen. Perfection. A man's man. 1002.
Oh, I could barely lift my right arm because I did so many.
Ladies' man.
Make a baby.
Anchor man.
Cannonball!
Will Ferrell.
Huh? You know I don't speak Spanish.
Anchorman, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, July 9th everywhere.
2004, man, was just such a good year for comedy. I just realized that now. We talked about some really good ones that have come out in this year. You know, Napoleon Dynamite, Dodgeball, Envy, Starsky and Hutch, and now this movie, Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy, which is pretty much what you think it is when you see the trailer for it. It's a tongue-in-cheek take on the culture of the 1970s, particularly the new action news format that was going on in the world of television at the time. This was still when television was still very much in its infancy. And you have Ron Burgundy as a San Diego television station personality, Ron Burgundy, where his character clashes with the new female anchor, Christina Applegate, playing the character there. You also have a cast that includes a ton of talent all around. Paul Rudd, Steve Carell, David Koechner, Fred Willard, and that's just the main cast of characters. I mean, we haven't even talked about people like Chris Parnell, Catherine Hahn, Fred Armisen, Vince Vaughn, Jerry Minor, Laura Keitlinger, Danny Trejo, Jack Black, Judd Apatow, just a phenomenal cast in this movie, and this is really one of the funniest comedies ever made. I mean, this is Will Ferrell's magnum opus for me in terms of his comedies in general. There's that legacy of people that like Talladega Nights. There's that people that like Step Brothers. This is the topper for me. Will Ferrell and Adam McKay doing this movie. Just a great movie. The line readings in this movie are absolutely hilarious. Some of the funniest moments in movie history are in this film. Some great random lines, like one of my favorite obscure lines are in this movie where, Christina Applegate's going into Fred Will's office and asking about, where's her office at, and, and then Will Ferrell's just all of a sudden on the word goes, "You can use my office, and then maybe we can go to lunch," and then there's just this silence, and then Fred Will goes like, "Lower your voice, Ron." Like, jokes like that are all throughout this movie, and it's absolutely hilarious. Like, scenes will just start normally and then just go into this random area where you can't help but just laugh your ass off. I mean, there's one scene in particular where Will Ferrell's talking about what he loves about what's love about, and all of a sudden they just start going into Afternoon Delight. They all start singing Afternoon Delight, and it's just like, it's completely random, it's completely out of nowhere, but you know what? These guys are singing the crap out of that song, and it's a pretty damn good cover of it. I mean, there's not much more I can really say about this movie, man. This is a film that's just so brilliantly funny, so stupidly clever. It's just an absolute masterpiece of a comedy, just one of the best comedies ever made. This is one I always go back to. A freaking phenomenal movie, man. I love this movie so much. I love the sequel, too. Anchorman: The Legend Continues, but most people don't realize that there was also a direct-to-video DVD movie made. That's not even a sequel. It's just they filmed so much stuff from this movie. There was a lot of outtakes, additional subplots. They just decided, screw it, we're going to make it its own movie. And when this came out on DVD for the first time, they actually made it into its own movie. Wake Up Ron Burgundy, The Lost Movie, which is one I haven't seen in a long, long time. I don't remember it being that good, but maybe when we get to the 2004 Leftovers, it'll be one I'll bring up later on down the road. But this one's a comedy classic, man. I can't really say too much more about this one, hasn't already been said. Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. It's Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's magnum opus to me. This is their best movie that they've made. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the funniest comedies ever made. So, that's Anchorman. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Clive Owen starring as King Arthur.
For centuries, historians believed that the tale of King Arthur and his knights was only a legend. But the myth was based on a real hero who lived 1,600 years ago.
My father told me great tales of you. Fairy tales. People so brave, so selfless that they cannot be real. Arthur and his knights.
My duty is to my men.
I'm going to slaughter you people.
Mark my face. It will be the last thing you see on this side.
My power shall be with you wherever you go. Able to fly without wings. On this day, if this be our destiny, so be it.
craziest thing about this movie is I did not know who directed this until I saw who did it at the end, and that was Antoine Fuqua, who was a great director overall. We talked about some of his movies before. Training Day, in particular, I think was the film that he made before this. No, it was Tears from the Sun. Yeah, Tears of the Sun is what I was thinking of. But Training Day is his magnum opus, and so this is the second film. This is his second film after that, Training Day. And you could pretty much tell what they were trying to do with this. They were trying to make this the next Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's overhype the fact that it's produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who produced Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's get Keira Knightley back for this one, which is funny that they actually did. Supposedly, they digitally enhanced Keira Knightley's boobs on the cover, on the poster for this movie. I don't know. I don't really see it from this particular poster I'm looking at here on Wikipedia, but let me see if I can see if there's a difference on IMDb. See, it's not noticeable at first, but then when you actually look at the picture, yeah, they photoshopped that to hell, and it just, yeah, you can pretty much tell who they were trying to aim that towards. And also, you have the writer of Gladiator, David Franzoni, who of course, was nominated for an Oscar for writing Gladiator here. So, and not only that, you have Clive Owen, Ioan Gruffudd, Keira Knightley, Mads Mikkelsen, Joel Edgerton, Hugh Dancy, Ray Winstone, Ray Stevenson, Stephen Delane, Stellan Skarsgård, and Til Schreiber. They stacked the cast for this movie, but if they were really hoping that this was going to be the next Pirates of the Caribbean, they had another thing coming because, yeah, this is about as chaotic of a film as you can get. It's unusual in reinterpreting Arthur as a Roman officer rather than the typical medieval knight, and what's notable about this is that the producers of the film attempted to market it as a more historically accurate version of the Arthurian legends, but that's not what the film that Antoine Fuqua signed up for. In fact, Antoine Fuqua later on said down the road, when I first signed on to the movie, I wanted to shoot an R-rated movie, and then halfway through it, that changed for all sorts of reasons. Obviously, it's always money. That was very difficult for me, and I had a tough time adjusting to that. I had to change a lot of my shooting style that I had set up because it just wasn't possible to do certain things to get a PG-13 rating. Just because it would have been more graphic. Like I said, tonally, it would have been a different mindset. So once that happened when I was filming, it made it difficult. Gee, I wonder what happened in between the shooting of this movie. Something I mentioned before, Pirates of the Caribbean happened. I mean, that's got to be the reason why they changed it around here. And it would have helped in the long run if the movie was actually good or engaging or actually had a purpose to it. I mean, when you watch this movie, man, like, yeah, it's slightly better than something like the Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie they made back in, 2017, which was absolutely horrible. But this film, it's just way too bleak, it's way too convoluted, it's way too complicated. It's kind of the equivalent to Attack of the Clones, where it's just nothing but dialogue, and they add in a whole lot of exposition instead of actually getting to the fighting. I mean, it's really not that great of a film, and it just wastes so many good people involved in here. And there's a director's cut of this movie out there, and while it's a little bit better, it's not enough for me to say that this is something that you need to see in the director's cut format. This is just a sloppy film that is bad from the get-go. It just had way too much going on behind the scenes. And there really could be a good movie made with a storyline here, and it just really isn't. And it's a shame because Antoine Fuqua deserves a lot better than a film like this in general. And you know, this was at a low point. This was at kind of a lull in his career. When after Training Day, he was getting these really lackluster films, and really wouldn't do anything of noteworthiness again until around, you know, something like Brooklyn's Finest came out way down to the end of the decade. But yeah, not a great movie in general. A largely forgettable film. Just a really disappointing film in general. It's way too much going on, too bleak, not interesting whatsoever. Just not a great film in general. So, that's King Arthur. And let's go ahead and wrap this up with our last movie here, and that is the comedy Sleepover.
Steve is so plush.
Just go up and talk to him.
Steve Phillips? Dream on. How did Stacy get so popular anyways? We used to be best friends. We decided to put together a little hunt. Hunting what? Scavenger hunting? You're on.
But it became their chance to prove they can take on the competition.
We have a proposition. Can you cover for us?
$5. Actually, I need 20.
No heels on the hardwood floor!
Heels aren't so bad.
Who was that?
Are the girls there?
They're here, of course!
Oh wow, it's Adventures in Babysitting meets Midnight Madness meets Superbad, except it's for the kids. How do you think that worked out? Not very well. You have a story about on the day of the last day of 8th grade before their freshman year in high school. Alexa Vega plays Julie, who has a slumber party with her 3 best friends, Hannah, Farrah, and Yancy, and they have the time of their lives. To win the legendary high school lunch spot by the fountain, they must win an all-night scavenger hunt against their popular girl rivals. Unfortunately, Julie's mom, played by Jane Lynch, has firm rules about the party. First rule, don't leave the house, but Julie and her friends won't let a little thing like parental authority stand in the way of social domination as they sneak out of the house, steal a car, snatch a cute boy's boxer shorts, crash a high school dance, torment an egomaniacal security guard played by Steve Carell. Along the way, some of the girls might just find love, because anything is possible at Julie's sleepover, and you really give a shit at this point. I mean, that's only a little bit of the snippets from this trailer that is just so obnoxious, it's so annoying. And when you watch the film itself, it's about as bad as generic as you can get. You got a lot of really good talent here. You know, this was Alexa Vega trying to follow up her success with Spy Kids, and didn't work out too well for her. It's a movie that really devoids anybody of true talent. There's a lot of good talent involved in here. Alexa Vega, Jane Lynch, Sarah Paxton, Brie Larson, Steve Carell, Jeff Garland, Sam Huntington, Evan Peters has one of his early film roles here, Scott Taylor Compton from the Halloween reboot, the Rob Zombie Halloween reboot. Yeah, other than that, though, there's really nothing here. It's a lazy comedy that just is so downright trying to go for the lowest common denominator in a season where the benefit to them was that they did not have a whole lot of family films to compete with that were going to be really compatible, but there's still many better options out there than this garbage right here. Like, nobody wanted to see this movie, and clearly nobody wanted to go see this movie because it only made back $10 million, which, even though that was its budget in general, you still aren't making a whole lot of money by making back just your budget in general, even if it's for a smaller film like this. Just a lazy film, just a really lackluster film, nothing funny, a waste of really good talent overall. Just not a good film. Not a good film whatsoever. Sleepover.
We designed them to be trusted with our homes, with our way of life, with our world. But did we design them to be trusted?
The rollout of USR's new generation of robot, the NS5, was marred by the death of designer Alfred Lanning.
Identifier. Murder's a new trick for a robot. Respond. Murder him! We're gonna miss the good old days. What good old days? When people were killed by other people.
My robots don't kill people.
That thing threw somebody out of a window. Is that registering with you?
A robot cannot harm a human being.
And you trust them if you want to.
We look to robots for protection. Imagine the loss of all that we've gained because of an irrational paranoia.
Does thinking you're the last sane man on the face of the earth make you crazy? Because if it does, maybe I am.
Maybe you can be looking in the shadows all the time.
You're on the inside. Help me find out what is wrong with these robots.
Dr. Lanning suggested robots might naturally evolve.
I was hoping to see you again, Detective. Think of me as your friend.
Why didn't you just hand the world over on a silver platter?
Maybe we did.
We are on the eve of the largest robotic distribution in history. There'll be one robot to every 5 humans.
How many robots have ever committed a crime? How many robots in the world?
None.
There is no conspiracy. What this is one mistake.
Oh, hell no. Somehow, I told you so just doesn't quite say it. Get off my car!
I see you remain suspicious of me, Detective.
You know what they say about old dogs?
Not really.
Gotcha.
Pretty sure that's not how that line goes. It's old dogs teaching old dogs new tricks. But the trailer's kind of weird because not only is that scene in there that doesn't make sense in the movie itself, but the scene where, Will Smith's talking about gonna miss the good old days when people were killed by other people. apparently for some reason it's switched in the movie. Like, it's T. McBride saying, "Gonna miss the good old days," and I don't know why they decided to change it in the movie rather than what they did in the trailer. It's just kind of weird. But then again, this whole movie is very weird in terms of its inspiration. It's based off of Isaac Asimov's 1950 short story collection called I, Robot, but it's not really based off the book in general. It's literally described on here as based on a premise suggested by I, Robot. When you really look at the movie, they basically just took the title. It would have been easy to just say, title taken from I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. That makes a whole lot more sense, but in the film, you have a film set in Chicago in 2035, which, hey, 11 years from now, this is what Chicago's going to look like, and I somehow really doubt that that's what Chicago's going to look like in 11 years from now, but who knows? Who knows what will actually happen? But in 2035, highly intelligent robots fill public service positions throughout the world, operating under the 3 laws to keep humans safe. You have Detective Del Spooner, played by Will Smith, investigating the alleged suicide of U.S. robotics founder Alfred Lanning, played by James Cromwell, and believes that a human-like robot called Sonny, played by Alan Tudyk, murdered him. And, yeah, the biggest problem with the movie in general is that, yeah, it's not based off of Isaac Asimov's book of the same name. I mean, that's one of the big things you could take away from this right away. It feels kind of more just like a generic sci-fi action film in general, but it's Alex Proyas. Alex Proyas directed The Crow. He also did Dark City. He's good at taking stuff like this and making it work, and he does a pretty good job making this work as well. Even though it's not based off the source material well, it's still a fun movie in general. I like Will Smith a lot in this movie. I think Alan Tudyk, who's having a really good year with this and Dodgeball, and he really is a very underrated actor in general, and he really gives one of the best performances of his career in this movie. I mean, he really, it's hard to believe it's actually him at first. Like, it's one of those ones where when you watch it the first time, you can't really tell who it is, and then, like, it's one of those ones where you don't know it at first, and then as slowly but surely, as you watch the movie as it goes along, you think that voice sounds very familiar, and then it turns out to be Alan Tudyk, and yeah, he's really given it his all in the movie in general. The visuals are very impressive to look at. The action sequences are really cool to take a look to watch. It has a lot of good fun moments. I like the climax a lot. I think there's a lot of really fun things that they do with the climax in general. It's a visually gorgeous looking film to look at. I mean, when these robots are attacking the main characters at the end of the movie, it looks legitimately cool, like them climbing up the building and all that. I mean, it's really cool stuff in general, and the film overall is very fun. Overall. It's a good, fun summer blockbuster popcorn type of film. Like, you go in there, you turn your brain off, and you just have a good time with it. And yeah, if you look at the story and the plot in general, it really does not work in the long run. Especially how, why does Will Smith hate these robots so much? And when they do kind of explain it, it really doesn't work in the favor that I think they wanted it to work in. But it's not a bad explanation. It just feels like something that really should have been better explained more in general. But here it doesn't really work as well as I think they wanted it to. But the story really is the opposite. Is in the back. What am I trying to say here? The story really does take a back seat in this situation. That's what I was trying to say. But you get the idea here. You go into this having a good time watching the visual effects, watching these actors do what they do best. Everybody in the movie works fine for what they're trying to do here. I mean, they all fit their roles very well. The action sequences are really cool. There is a lot of fun factors brought into this whole film. It's Alex Proyas doing what Alex Proyas does best in general. It may not be one of his better films in general, but it's still a really good fun film overall. It's a very good fun time overall. It's a good fun film. I like I, Robot a lot. If you're going into this looking for something so similar to the book it's based on, you're not going to find it in this movie. But if you're just going in there having a good time, looking for a good time in general, it'll definitely do the trick for you. It's a really good film. I can't recommend it enough. I, Robot. So, with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that's Hilary Duff starring in A Cinderella Story.
Once upon a time, in a land called Los Angeles, there was a girl named Sam.
Orders up!
Who lived with her wicked stepmother.
There's something I've always wanted to tell you. You're not very pretty, and you're not very bright.
And her 2 evil stepsisters.
You got mail.
Not yet.
secret admirer beckons.
One day, she got an invitation.
I need to know who you are. Please meet me at the homecoming dance.
To meet her Prince Charming.
They need you to mop the floors tonight.
Fortunately, her fairy godmother appeared.
Let me deal with Mrs. Potato Head.
Go ahead, girlfriend.
Call me girlfriend one more time.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, don't fuck around with Riley Freeman. That's Regina King, by the way, of course, plays Riley in Huey on the Boondocks. But this is a Cinderella story, a modernization of the classic Cinderella storyline where you have two internet pen pals who plan to meet in person at their high school Halloween dance. And the pen pals are Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray, who was then on One Tree Hill. And it's weird because this was a film that was largely panned by critics. It actually did worse than stuff like New York Minute, The Prince and Me, these Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, all these movies that came out around this time period that were really trying to capture the teenage zeitgeist. Sleepover was one we looked at last week. This proved to be the most successful one of the group in terms of its box office in general. It went on to become a massive hit, making $70 million off of a budget of only $19 million. So it did become a hit franchise in general, and it did become a series where it led to multiple direct-to-video sequels. None of them included Hilary or Chad in them. And yeah, a lot of people really didn't like the film in general. Most critics didn't like it at the time. It's definitely not a movie that would be in my target audience. I'm not, bottom line, I'm not in the target audience. I don't know what's going on with my words today. I'm not in the target audience that this movie is intended for. But, with all of that said, I thought this movie was actually alright. I mean, it certainly is a lot better than the last time they tried to do a modernized version of Cinderella with that terrible Camilla Cabello movie that came out a couple of years ago. I mean, it's a fun idea in general, taking the concept of Cinderella and bringing it into a modern-day L.A., and it is a fun film in general, mostly because of the great acting all around here. I think Hilary Duff is very good in the film. Chad Michael Murray, even though I kind of criticized him a little bit in the beginning there, but he does work well as this film's equivalent of the Prince in here. You got a great cast of legendary seasoned veterans like Regina King, Jennifer Coolidge, who has a really great fun line in the trailer that I didn't get to show you, where she's talking to the two evil stepsisters, and she's just like, "I'm so mad at you right now," and the stepsisters are just like, "You don't look that mad," and she's like, "Oh, it's the Botox. I can't show emotions for an hour," and it's just like, that's a fun little line there, and the movie knows exactly what it's trying to do. It's trying to create these different ideas of how to adapt Cinderella into modern times. So instead of a slipper, it's a cell phone. Instead of taking place in a kingdom, it takes place in Los Angeles. I mean, it's a film that knows exactly what it is, and if you go into it knowing what it is, you can actually find some good elements to it in general. Is it one of the best Cinderella adaptations? No. I mean, it's not even that great of a film in general, but in terms of some of the other movies that were targeting to this specific demographic at the time, this one's probably the one that came out in 2004, besides stuff like Mean Girls, obviously, that did its job the best overall. I mean, this is a film that knows exactly who it's trying to target its audience to. It delivers well for them, and it's a film that does work in general for what it's trying to accomplish here. It's nothing too significant, it's nothing too crazy. It is kind of reminiscent to something like iRobot, because it is taking a lot from the classic storyline and doing something different with it, except in the case of iRobot, this is trying to do something that's very similar to the book, but in modern times. But, yeah, like I said, it's a fun little film. It's a film that I would say it's definitely better than I think people let on. I think it's a movie that, for the target demographic that it's going for, it works fine for what it is. It's probably one of Hilary Duff's best films in general, outside of doing stuff like the Lizzie McGuire movie, because we've looked at a couple of her movies already so far, and most of them have not been that great, and we've got another one coming out this year with Raise Your Voice, which was not that great of a movie. This is definitely one of the stronger ones in general. But, like I said, not a great film in general, but still better, I think, than most people get let on, so. So that's a Cinderella story. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that's Jeff Bridges and Kim Basinger in The Door in the Floor.
Jeff Bridges.
I hired you, Eddie, because you look like Thomas.
Academy Award winner Kim Basinger.
Why didn't you leave him? It's the only one that really knows what happened to me.
And introducing John Foster.
I want to know more about you. You know too much already.
show you.
From the director of Paranormal Activity 2. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. Yeah, this is literally directed by the same guy that would give us Paranormal Activity 2 about 6 years from now. But, yeah, talk about a different movie in general from that to this. This is The Door on the Floor, based off the book by John Irving, where it alternates between tragedy and comedy, an exploration of the complexities of love in both its brightest and darkest corners. It's based off the book A Widow from 1 Year, and it's set in the privileged beach community of East Hampton, New York. And it chronicles one pivotal summer in the lives of famous children's book author Ted Cole, played by Jeff Bridges, and his beautiful wife Marion, played by Kim Basinger. Their once great relationship has been strained by tragedy, her resulting despondency, and her subsequent infidelities have prevented the couple from confronting a much-needed change in their relationship. Eddie O'Hare, the young man Ted hires to work as a summer assistant, is the couple's unwitting yet willing paw, and ultimately the catalyst in the transformation of their lives. And it's a film that you can pretty much tell is clearly going for Oscar bait. And yeah, it's a film that is pretty much what you'd expect it to be, honestly. It's a movie where, yeah, it's pretty much going to go exactly where you're going to take it to. And I guess really the best thing about the film are the performances by Jeff Bridges and Kim Basinger. They're both really good in the film. You do buy into their chemistry that they were once a couple, that they actually did care about each other, and then all of a sudden they've lost that love after all these years. I guess that's the one positive I can give the movie. The rest of the film itself is your typical Oscar baity, cliched riddle drama. It's a movie that is trying to go for awards consideration and just really does not really have a lot there to really take it to the next level, to do something that is completely different and radical than what other adaptations of this, other stories of this similar type have done before. I mean, we've seen this story done much better in other movies, but the one thing that I will say it has going for it are the performances by Bridges and Basinger, who are both very, very strong in the film. But other than that, though, it's really one of those movies I can't really recommend for anything more than a one-time watch. Other than that, there's no real reason to check this movie out again a second time. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Maria, Full of Grace.
Can I see your passport, diversion card, and ticket, please?
So in the film, you have Maria Alvarez, an independent, feisty, underpaid 17-year-old Colombian rose packager who's stuck in a tedious life and dead-end relationship with her good-for-nothing boyfriend, Juan. Things get even worse when an unexpected pregnancy and an ugly altercation with her unfair boss tempts her to accept the risky offer to become a drug mule, smuggling drugs from, and as if things weren't... This is literally how it's written on IMDb. If you think I'm screwing up around here, no. That's what it says right there. Smuggling drugs from, and as if things weren't bad enough. So just before you think I'm not reading it correctly, that's how it's written on IMDb. And as if things weren't bad enough, an unexpected pregnancy and an ugly altercation with her unfair boss will tempt Maria to accept the risky offer to become a drug mule. And just repeating the same thing I just said before. IMDb, you really got to look at these synopses before you give these the go-ahead. I mean, honestly. But will tempt Maria to... Okay... this is where it's different. Transporting drugs from Bogota to New York City. As things rapidly spiral out of control, the option of an early retirement and a peaceful future for Maria and her unborn baby begins to fade away. Is there a way out of this hopeless predicament? Well, there's a way out of reading the storyline, and that's what I just did. I clicked away from it. But this is a film that stars Catalina Sandino Moreno, who got nominated for an Academy Award for this performance, and she's been recently most seen in stuff like the Twilight Saga movie. She was in Eclipse. She was in Silent Night, the recent John Woo movie. She's in an MGM Plus show From. She was on The Affair. She's going to be in the new Ballerina movie coming out next year for the John Wick spinoff. But she's really good in the movie, and she really does command the screen in general. She really is a strong female presence here in a movie where, kind of like with The Door on the Floor, it really is one of those films that really does not have enough there to really make more for just a one-time watch, just to see this really good performance. Because this is, again, a story we've seen done to death so many times before. It doesn't really do a whole lot that's different compared to other stories like this. It does get kind of boring after a little bit here. None of the characters in here really are all that interesting, except for Maria, of course. But I don't know. Me personally, I didn't find a whole lot about it to really get into it, a lot to say. It's worth more than a one-time watch. I think for a one-time watch, you definitely get your money's worth here. But other than that, though, there's really nothing that makes me say that this is something that you should see more than once. I mean, if you see it once, I think you enjoy it for what it is. But I don't think you'd expect anything more from it afterwards. But again, that's just my personal opinion on it, especially considering that this has got very high reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, 97% on there. So I guess I'm one of the three. I don't even think it's a bad movie in general, but I guess I'm closer to that 3% that don't like it than the 90% that do like it. Take that for what you will, but then again, it's Rotten Tomatoes. But anyway, that's Maria Full of Grace.
Matt Damon is Jason Bourne.
The Bourne Supremacy.
Camera landing.
This is Jason Bourne.
Bourne?
What did I say? If I even feel somebody behind me, I will bring this bike to your doorstep.
Trace it.
Where is he? Right next to you.
It's such a badass move, man. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where they're all just like, you know, where's the call coming from? Where is he? And Jason Bourne's just like right next to you, and like, just such a badass move, man. And fitting, because this is a badass movie. I mean, this is this is the continuation from the first film, The Bourne Identity, and this film, even though it takes its name from the second Bourne novel, it's a completely different plot altogether, where you have Jason Bourne, a former CIA assassin suffering from psychogenetic amnesia. Bourne is once again played by Matt Damon, of course. The film focuses... I don't know what's wrong with me right now. The film focuses on his attempt to learn more of his past, as he is once more enveloped in a conspiracy involving the CIA and Operation Treadstone. This one includes the return, Brian Cox as Ward Abbott, and the introduction of Joan Allen as Pamela Landy. Carl Urban is also in this movie as well, and Julia Stiles is also back as Nikki Parsons, and Franca Potente from the last movie is back in here, although I'll just tell you right now, if you watch the full trailer for this, they make you think this seems like that she's going to be there throughout the course of the movie. She's not. She's usually she's gone within like the first 20 minutes, and yeah, that's I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it was, I don't know. To me personally, I didn't think that was a smart move to put that in the trailer, make it seem like she's going to be with him this time around, and really she's not. But then again, this is Paul Greengrass. When Paul Greengrass entered the Bourne franchise with this film, he took this series to another level. I mean, people relatively didn't know who Paul Greengrass was, unless you saw Bloody Sunday before this. But this was the movie that really introduced him to the world as a action director. And you know, for a guy that had directed an independent movie around that time, and him tackling a sequel to one of the many attempts to create the next great spy thriller after in that same time we had Triple X and the last Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie, and this was the one that stuck by the most. And then here's the sequel, where you get this unknown director at the time, and for the most part an unknown director, and he manages to take this series to another level. I mean, this movie is absolutely amazing. They do an excellent job of continuing the story of Jason Bourne, creating a lot of new twists and turns for the series, a lot of great tension-filled scenes like that scene I just mentioned before. I mean, there are so many moments in this movie that take you completely by surprise, that you do not see it coming until it happens. Right from the beginning of the film, you're so hooked in, because it takes you by surprise every few minutes by the decisions the film makes, and it just pulls all the stops out any way it can. The action sequences are really fantastic in this. This is the one where they really do come off strong in this movie. You bring in, Greengrass's unique camera style that which to be seen later on in his movies. It works incredibly well here. The car chase at the end of the movie is really incredible. It's one of the best action sequences in recent memory. I mean, it's a great, great film in general. It's a great movie that has a very impressive sequel in a year where we had, Shrek 2, Spider-Man 2, and now this movie. When they brought in Paul Greengrass to really bring the series to the next level, they really changed the Bourne franchise around for the better, making the movies more tension-filled with every passing film, more action-packed, more story-driven, and all led by this great leading performance by Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. And for the most part, the series continued on that track, even with the next movie, The Bourne Ultimatum. Kind of slipped off a bit once they brought in Jeremy Renner for the spin-off, sort of a spin-off slash prequel, slash sequel, The Bourne Legacy. Either way, it was a terrible movie to begin with. That's easily the worst one of the series. And then they brought it back up with Jason Bourne at the end. And reportedly they're working on another one, too. So with Paul Greengrass coming back as well as Matt Damon. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that one. But, yeah, The Bourne Supremacy really is a pretty damn good movie in a year where we've had so many good sequels. This is one that usually gets pushed off to the side with stuff like Shrek and Shrek 2 and Spider-Man 2, but this definitely should be up there with one of the best sequels from that year easily. It's a great, great film. I mean, honestly, I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out The Bourne Supremacy, because you will not be disappointed by that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last movie that we have here, a movie that could have easily killed Halle Berry's career, but as you can see from today's tweets, she's probably taking it in stride. I mean, she really is literally taking it in strides today. But let's talk about Catwoman. Now, see, that trailer makes the movie look more awesome than it actually is, but, yeah, when I was doing the first DC Ember back in 2014, I was dreading the day I was actually going to have to watch this movie in full, because I did have the DVD when it came out. I don't know, I was kind of suckered into, you know, I mean, who else would not be suckered into Halle Berry in spandex and cracking a whip and dressed up like a cat? I mean, what prepubescent 15-year-old boy wouldn't be in that situation? But, yeah, for the longest time, Catwoman was a movie that was floating around in development hell for a number of years, that had various people attached to it, ranging from Tim Burton, of course, Michelle Pfeiffer, who was Catwoman in Batman Returns, Ashley Judd was involved at one point, Nicole Kidman, and then it went to Halle Berry and a director called Pitoff, a French director who's best known for being a visual effects supervisor, because clearly that works so well. I mean, didn't you see how great it worked for the Strauss brothers when they made Alien vs. Predator? Which, by the way, this guy was a second-unit director on Alien Resurrection. We're already not in a good spot here. We haven't even gotten to the actual plot of the movie here. And the plot, it's a plot, all right. You can pretty much tell right away how bad this is going to be. But Catwoman is the story of shy, sensitive artist Patience Phillips, played by Halle Berry, and honestly, those words right there, I could just stop right now, because you can already see the problem with the movie right here, but for the sake of this, we'll continue on. A woman who can't seem to stop apologizing for her own existence. She works as a graphic designer for Hadari Beauty, a mammoth cosmetics company on the verge of releasing a revolutionary anti-aging product. When Patience inadvertently happens upon a dark secret her employer, played by Sharon Stone, is hiding, she finds herself in the middle of a corporate conspiracy. What happens next changes Patience forever. In a mysterious twist of fate, she is transformed into a woman with the strength, speed, and agility and ultimate keen senses of a cat. Again, I could stop at any time if I want to, because this sounds so terrible, but let's continue on, because trust me, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And by that, I mean not better at all. With her newfound prowess and feline intuition, Patience becomes Catwoman, a sleek and stealthy creature balancing on the thin line between good and bad. Like any wildcat, she's dangerous, elusive, and untamed. Her adventures are complicated by a burgeoning relationship with Tom Lone. Have you had enough yet? I certainly have had enough yet. I mean, I could stop right there, because this sounds like Stephanie Meyer garbage here, brought into a universe that shouldn't exist because Catwoman already exists in the Batman movies, but I digress. Tom Lone, played by Benjamin Bratt, is a cop who has fallen for Patience, but cannot shake his fascination with the mysterious Catwoman, who appears to be responsible for a string of crime sprees plaguing the city. Now, doesn't that sound nothing like Catwoman? I certainly hope so, because the writers of this movie clearly weren't aware they had 75 years of research material on this character and didn't do anything with it, because it's clear from this plot that this is nothing but made-up garbage that has nothing to do with Catwoman. You know how we have the Sony Spider-Man universe that technically started off not involving Spider-Man, you know, the Venom movies, you know, Morbius, Madam Web? Imagine that, but almost 20 years prior to that, and it's only contained to one movie instead of multiple movies that somehow keep getting worse and worse with every film. But I digress. I mean, it's not even the worst part of the movie, honestly. And where do you even start? Let's start with the names. Patience Phillips, Tom Lone. Names that do not sound realistic by any means necessary. So why are they named these characters? Because, you know, we have Alex Borstein from Family Guy in here. She has to be the comic foil, and she's forced to make a really unfunny joke about his last name, only to have it end with her saying Bone. I mean, I swear to God. I mean, the scene in particular would make even Lois from Family Guy lose her mind here, because it's that bad of a scene. Like, it's forcing really bad comedy here. But they take the story of Catwoman and just destroy it. There is absolutely nothing that is relatable to the character of Catwoman from any of the movies or comics at all, from the origin of how Catwoman came to be, which the trailer doesn't show you how hilariously bad she gets axed off at the beginning, because, no, she doesn't get shot like in the trailer, no. She's standing in front of a pipeline with water, and she just falls right into the water, and the way it looks is just amazingly bad. It adds like a stupid split personality story to literally having Halle Berry sniffing catnip, like she just sniffed pounds of cocaine, and those cat puns, man, they are just all over the goddamn place. And let's talk about the costume. Who thought that was a good idea? No mentally sound human will find this costume sexy at all, as much as they're trying their best. I mean, you got Halle Berry there, and even she can't make it look sexy. And I'm sorry, like, I love Halle Berry, man. I know this is going to be a bashing of her saying yes to this, but I will say some nice things about her by the end of this. I'm promising this. You're seeing my fingers crossed. I will say positive things about Halle Berry this, because there are things about her in this movie that I will say that are positive. But getting back to the movie itself, every character in this movie is stupid. Tom Lone spends way too much time figuring out who Catwoman is. Like, she's just like Batman in every way, when clearly she isn't in this movie. Like, the villain is so stupid because her plan is not really evil. She lies to herself right in front of Catwoman. The last scene of the climax, she literally says that as long as you keep using her makeup, your face will not get destroyed. 2 minutes later, her face gets so screwed up, so clearly the makeup isn't any damn good. The biggest problem this movie has is that it's one of those movies that's aiming to empower females. And there have been movies where you can empower females and actually have a good movie out of it. I mean, the first Alien. Look at what Ellen Ripley did in that movie. Look at what Sigourney Weaver's character did in that movie. I mean, like that's a movie that empowers females. The second Aliens movies. I mean, The Secret of NIMH is another great example. But here, one of the characters literally comes out and says that the reason nobody wants to listen to her is because of, and I quote, male academia. Somebody got paid to write this movie. Don't tell me that this is a movie that's supposed to feature a strong lead female character when you add a line like that into a movie. You know, at least with bad films like Red Sonja, Supergirl, Elektra, they were at least trying to provide good lead female characters, but they all had terrible scripts to work with. But this is just, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And this makes Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider seems like the most well-handled lead female character. That's how bad it is when Angelina Jolie's Lara Croft is a more likable character, a likable lead female character than anybody in this movie. I hate when movies say that we're going to show that females can be just as great as the lead male characters can. And then we get stuff like Sucker Punch in the Spirit, where they're just there to be glorified for their sexuality, and that's it. I said it back when I did my original review, I'll say it again. When an animated kids show like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has better lead female characters who are written as stronger, independently written female characters who act like regular people most of the time, that's how you know how bad it is here. I mean, yeah, it's amazing that it's gotten to this point. I mean, I think I've honestly pretty much said everything I needed to say that's bad about this movie. It just sucks so hard. The movie itself, there's not one good thing about this movie, but I will give Halle Berry this. I don't think she's bad in the movie. Like, I know I said her character's pretty stupid in here, but she is committed to the role. And whether or not she realized at the end of it, which I'm pretty sure she realized after it was done, it was just like, she probably regrets doing this, but then again, there's somebody who has having a lot of fun with it. I mean, just today, like I showed you the tweets. I mean, right there, she's clearly having a ball with this. I mean, when she won the Razzie for this movie, you know what she did? She actually went up and accepted the award.
I've got so many people to thank because you don't win a Razzie without a lot of help from a lot of people. So please indulge me and just let me, go through this.
Like, yeah, she probably knows the movie is bad, but you know what? I give her a lot of credit for having a lot of fun with this whole idea. Yeah, I mean, it's like when Sandra Bullock won the Razzie for All About Steve. Yeah, she knew it was a bad movie, and she went there, because most people don't go to the Razzies to accept these awards, but you know what? She went there, she accepted her award, and, a day later, she was an Academy Award winner, too. I mean, Halle Berry's already got her Academy Award. She's made many, many movies since excuse me. Sorry, I burped there for a second, but she's made Halle Berry's made many, many movies after Catwoman that shows that this is still a really good actress. This was just a bad movie to star in. And she has starred in some bad movies since this, but, yeah. Like, it's not her fault the movie is bad. She is trying her hardest. I mean, it's not her fault the character is written badly. It's not her fault the movie is written badly. It's not her fault that this movie is what it is. It's just a really bad idea that just, it's just a terrible, terrible film. I mean, what more do I even need to say about this film that hasn't already been said already? There is one more thing I do need to say, though. Batman, for the love of God, come back, please. Can we please get to next summer when you have when your big return to the movie comes? Because, man, we miss you badly, man. We miss you really, really badly. So yeah, that's Catwoman for you.
You have a secret.
I see dead people. There is a soul survivor, and he is miraculously unharmed.
There's a monster outside my room.
On July 30th,
There are marks on the door.
M. Night Shyamalan takes you into the village.
Creatures have never attacked us for that reason.
And there's no turning back.
Please close the door!
M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
So if they can't even get the right years for The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, because The Sixth Sense didn't come out in 2000, came out in 1999. Unbreakable didn't come out in 2001, it came out in 2000. They got signs right, but what was the point of even having it be 2000, 2001, 2002? But, yeah, it's not a good sign if we have to go back and look at his works before this movie, and they can't even get the right dates correct, but, some people consider this to be the beginning of the downfall for M. Night Shyamalan, and I would say Signs was that in terms of a creative aspect, but that was a big commercial and critical success, so what the hell do I know? But I digress. This film is about a village whose population lives in fear of creatures inhabiting the woods beyond it, referring to them as those who we don't speak of. And this is where M. Night Shyamalan gets very pretentious. I mean, you were starting to see a lot of it in Signs in particular, where a lot of the characters were talking so quietly. It was like ASMR before ASMR became the norm. But they were all these very one-note characters that didn't really have a lot of backgrounds in general. Like, they didn't really do anything except just explain. And a lot of it is in this movie, and we know nothing about these creatures, and when we do get to see these creatures finally in their full capacity, needless to say, this is where the twist endings of M. Night Shyamalan really start to take a goddamn turn, because this is just where the end of this movie is so ridiculously stupid and unbelievably terrible. It's just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, that was my first feeling when I watched this, when I watched the twist ending for this for the first time. It's just like, are you freaking serious right now? So it's not even a good twist in general. It would also help too if the movie was actually good before it, but it's not. it's a complete waste of a lot of talent. Bryce Dallas Howard, Joaquin Phoenix, Adrian Brody, William Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Brendan Gleeson. And like I said, it was the movie that really was the beginning of the downfall for M. Night Shyamalan, because that streak he had with Disney came to an end, and Disney basically said after this was with his next movie, we ain't releasing that movie, and that movie became Lady in the Water, and then we finally got to see why when Warner Brothers put it out, and needless to say, it does not get any better from there. This was the beginning of that downfall between 2004 until 2013, and then once he teamed up with Jason Blum, his career slowly but surely returned back on top again, but yeah, prepare yourself for the worst of the worst from M. Night Shyamalan, because we're going to get to a lot of those movies coming up in the next couple of years here. But The Village, it's definitely a bad movie, man, but not the worst thing he's done. Trust me, we still got a few movies to go before we get to that point. But, yeah, The Village is pretty bad. I don't think I really need to explain why. I think most people have said why it's not a good movie. Yeah, it's not a very good film at all. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is the star-studded remake of The Manchurian Candidate, directed by Jonathan Demme of Silence of the Lambs.
I dream, I don't want to dream.
Something happened out there in the desert that night during that mission, and it's not what we thought it was, and it happened on my watch.
We've been down this road with you before, yes?
No, sir. Not this road.
Sergeant Shaw, you ever dream about Kuwait?
Captain Marco!
How much do you actually know about your friend?
I served under him. He was a good man.
That's what the neighbors always say about serial killers.
Somebody put an implant inside me. I got a good feeling they put one in you, too.
You need to get help, Ben.
I'm not crazy, Shaw.
Raymond, this is J.B. Johnson of Manchurian Global.
The Storm supporters.
Flick the switch, we can adjust character, change personality.
These are not supposed to exist.
Raymond Prentice, Shaw. Listen.
Say no to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Trust me, I'm doing you a favor. That's what I'd be telling Liev Schreiber at that point. Don't do X-Men Origins Wolverine, because for the love of God, I mean, we'll get to that one eventually, but this is The Manchurian Candidate. This is, of course, the remake of the 1962 movie, which starred Frank Sinatra, and this is based off, of course, of the novel by Richard Condon, and it stars Denzel Washington as Bennett Marco, a tenacious, virtuous soldier, Liev Schreiber as Raymond Shaw, who's a U.S. representative from New York, manipulated into becoming a vice presidential candidate. John Voight stars as U.S. Senator Tom Jordan, who's a challenger for vice president, and Meryl Streep is Eleanor Prentice Shaw, U.S. Senator and Raymond's manipulative, ruthless mother. And while the name of the novel in the earlier film is still in here, the difference is that there's a significance on Manchurian. In the original, the protagonist is captured in the Korean War and brainwashed by the Chinese army in Manchuria. And in the 2004 film, when the Korean War was replaced by the Gulf War, Manchurian is instead used as the name of a sinister multinational company. This is one of those ones that remakes that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot, especially when you consider that Paramount had the infamously bad Stepford Wives come out the same year, and this was right around the time when they were going remake crazy. This is definitely one of the better ones. I think boasted by the fact that you got this top-tier talent of stars. I mean, Denzel Washington, Meryl Streep, Liev Schreiber, John Voight, directed by Jonathan Demme, who really needed a good movie after the last couple films he had done were not that great, Beloved and The Truth About Charlie. And this is a film that definitely really shows why he's such a good director. And this is just a really good, modernized retelling of the original film. It does a lot that's completely different from the original film, but also stays tried and true to the original film, but adapts it into modern times, and it works really well. I don't think I need to say too much more about Denzel Washington. I've praised the guy enough on this show and on this channel, on this website in general, because I consider him the greatest actor of all time. I mean, he really is the best actor I've ever seen. I mean, I've talked about his work in the past. He gives another great performance in this movie. Meryl Streep, I think, is really good. And Liev Schreiber really is very good as Raymond Shaw. He's very commanding in here. And this is what makes Liev Schreiber such a good actor. And we've seen it in other great things like Ray Donovan and a lot of other movies and shows that we've talked about. But this is a movie that really, it definitely delivers on modernizing the classic movie, but not feeling like a carbon copy of the original movie, or trying to do something that's so completely different like the Stepford Wives, by taking it as a dark comedy instead of the serial serial thriller that the original one was. No, this movie does its job very well. It's a great remake. It distances itself from the original, but stays tried and true to the original while adapting it into modern times. It's got a strong cast to make it work. It's very tension-filled. It's very intense. It can get scary at times, too. Lee Schreiber, like I said, is very commanding in the role. Denzel Washington is great. I mean, not much more I could say about this movie that hasn't already been said. It's a very underrated little gem of a film. I mean, it was a hit when it came out, but it's been mostly largely forgotten. It's a movie that I do recommend checking out. Even if you've never seen the original Manchurian Candidate, definitely check this one out. It's definitely worth watching just for the performances, the great visuals appeal of the film, and it is very tension-filled and it works very well for its own good. I highly recommend it, The Manchurian Candidate. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to one of the more notable movies that actually turned out to be really good. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Kumar. Was it like 5 O's or 2 U's? If you've ever been picked on, they're having a good old American names like Dave, you know? Harold, put down.
Have you seen a Korean guy around here?
Yeah, only when I open my eyes, though.
And misunderstood.
I'm telling you, those guys love crunching numbers. Probably just made his weekend.
And we have a movie for you from the director of...
Dude, where's my car?
Tomorrow, see what all the buzz is about.
Well, what are you in here for?
For being black.
And I have 2 gay fathers.
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Rated R. Starts to...
And that commercial there is probably one of the reasons why this wasn't a big box office hit when it came out, which is interesting because the trailer for it was actually pretty good, and the movie itself is a really great film. It was part of that great stretch of comedies we had in 2004 that really did not get them. It was one of the few ones that really didn't get the proper respect it deserved. But this isn't like Envy, where it's something that I feel like has gotten better with time. This was a movie that was really good from the get-go and got very well received by critics in general, but people just didn't go to see it the first time around. You have a story here that has a man, Harold and Kumar, played by John Cho and Cal Penn. They go on this adventure to a White Castle restaurant after smoking marijuana, and you wouldn't think that it wouldn't be that big of a deal in general, but the way they take this into an adventure that's so grand and so grandiose in general, like, it just works very well here, and the film does a very good job of giving these two guys really great chemistry. Cal Penn and John Cho work off each other so well in general. Like, Cal Penn's not playing the same character he played in Van Wilder. He's a completely different character altogether. It works very well to his advantage, and seeing John Cho, who had previously before this had like a small role in American Pie, and then did stuff like Off Center, which was a criminally underrated WB show that was axed after just a couple of seasons. Like, he gets a chance to really show his potential as a leading actor, but a lot of great performances in this movie, not just between the two of them, but you also have Paula Garces, who was in Clock Stoppers, who I thought was really good in here, David Krumholtz, Eddie K. Thomas, Chris Maloney, Ryan Reynolds also appears in this, so does Fred Willard, Anthony Anderson, with one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, where he just tears the restaurant up. Come on, Boogie, let's burn this motherfucker down. Malin Ackerman's also in the movie as well. But of course, everyone remembers the most memorable thing about the movie in general is Neil Patrick Harris, who, I mean, this was my introduction to Neil Patrick Harris. I never saw Doogie Howser as a kid, but man, when I saw him in this movie, and he was easily one of the funniest things about the movie, and essentially led to his renaissance as an actor as a whole, because the following year he did Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother, which is still a great show, despite the ending not being that great, and everything that... I always get excited to see anything Neil Patrick Harris is in now. I mean, the guy is a terrific entertainer, man. Like, and it's because of these movies that I think people really saw him as not just Doogie Howser. I mean, this is a guy that is so funny, so clever, so entertaining to watch, and the fact that he's gay, and and this film is completely different compared to what Neil Patrick Harris in real life it is as a person, like these movies in general, it's freaking amazing, man. It's a really good movie, and it's also very topical too. It does a very good job of subverting the stereotypes of like racial and racial comedic setups in general here. Something that I think the sequel failed to do, Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Even though I thought that one was okay, it definitely was not as good as this film is. I mean, this movie is really fun, and just the whole idea that all this is happening is they're trying to go to a White Castle restaurant. I live up in Western Pennsylvania. We don't have too many White Castles around here, unfortunately. So I've never had the opportunity to try White Castle. But watching these guys eat White Castle in this movie just made me really want to go to a real White Castle restaurant and see if these burgers are actually as good as they make them in this movie. I mean, yeah, I could go to my grocery store and get the frozen ones, but the frozen ones are not. But those ones are usually never that good. Plus, I always hear stories about how you put them in the microwave, and sometimes they're cooked but on one side, but then on the other side they're not. But no, the end of this movie, when they finally get to that destination, to the White Castle, and you see them eating all those burgers and fries, just like, it makes you want to get it. I mean, really made me want to go and get some White Castle, even though there's not that many around here, unfortunately. But the movie really is very funny. It's very clever. Directed by the guy who did Dude, Where's My Car, which is, this is kind of like a much smarter version of Dude, Where's My Car, even though Dude, Where's My Car is still a very funny movie. This is like the opposite of that, which is very smart, very clever, very stupid at times, very funny stuff. What more can I say, man? Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. I'm so glad it did find the following that it did afterwards, because it led to a sequel after that, and then probably the best overall is and then a nice return to form with the third film, the Christmas movie in 3D, which I think is definitely better than Escape from Guantanamo Bay. We'll get to Guantanamo Bay when we get to the 2008 season. The 2008 season, April 2008 is when it came out, so we'll get to that movie eventually. But Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, a classic movie, a great underrated comedy. Another great comedy from the year 2004. I mean, this was another great year for comedy in general, man. And this was another one of those examples of that. And this could be considered a comedy, too. Maybe not the way they intended it to be, but Thunderbirds.
Now on DVD and video, climb into the driver's seat
And with Thunder Eyes.
of the most advanced rescue vehicles
Thunderbird 4 is go.
on the planet.
The duty is to save those people.
Get me as close as you can.
Outstanding!
Nothing to it, really.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Yeah, the Thunderbirds TV show was known for having wooden characters because they were made with puppets. This movie's not supposed to have wooden characters that are played by live actors, and I think that was one of their biggest mistakes with this particular film. This is, of course, based off of the 1960s TV series Thunderbirds, of course, created by Gary Anderson. And this time it follows the Hood, who traps international rescue leader Jeff Tracy, played by Bill Paxton, and 4 of his sons on board the damaged Thunderbird 5 to steal the other Thunderbird's vehicles and commit heists that IR would be blamed for, prompting Jeff's youngest son Alan and his friends Tintin and Fernot. Tintin's actually, I believe, played by Vanessa Hudgens in one of her early film roles. Yeah, Vanessa Hudgens plays her. This is directed by Jonathan Frakes, too, so it doesn't have a bad thing behind it. This is also written by Michael McCullers, who did the Austin Powers movies, William Osborne. We've talked about some of the movies that he's been involved in. He wrote Twins, he wrote Twins and GoldenEye, but then he also did stuff like Short Time and Stop Where My Mom Will Shoot, or Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, The Scorpion King, Fat Slags. Yeah, not the best movies in general here. And Ben Kingsley is in the movie as the bad guy. One of Ben Kingsley's many, many bad career choices that he made around this time. Obviously, they were trying to go for the Spy Kids thing. This was still around the time when Spy Kids was still very relevant. We've talked about several other movies that have tried to copy the Spy Kids formula, but failed to succeed in those. The Agent Cody Banks 2s, Catch That Kid, and now Thunderbirds here. And I think the biggest problem with the film in general is the fact that this would have worked better as what the show was. I mean, a stop-motion TV series with super marionette puppets and scale model visual effects. Trying to do this as a big-budget adventure, I think, was really the wrong call here. And even then, it's not really that big of a budget of $57 million. That's cheap compared to compared to most blockbusters. And it couldn't even make that back in general. It only brought in $28 million. And, you know, it's funny because the creator of the show, Gary Anderson, criticized the film, chastised it, but his wife praised it as a great tribute to the series. I would have loved to see how that relationship would have gone went after that, but yeah, the movie itself is just pretty lame. It's a lackluster kids film that's trying so hard to... It's trying to be more Spy Kids than actual Thunderbirds. I mean, it just didn't work as a whole. Just a waste of a good cast overall here. Bill Paxton, Anthony Edwards, Ben Kingsley. Just a really, really bad film in general. Just a really bad film. And it really hurt Jonathan Frakes' career as a director, because this was the last movie, I believe... Well, this was the last big theatrical release he directed. He did do some Librarian movies for TNT, but other than that, his film career pretty much died after this. But But yeah, it's just a bad film. It's not really that great. It's not really engaging. It's just boring. It's a dull, boring film that really does not have anything of value to it whatsoever. It just feels like a complete waste of time. Just a bad film. So, let's go from a bad film to my favorite film of the whole weekend. For the longest time, it was actually in my top 30 favorite films of all time, but that has since changed, and I'll talk more about that after I show you a little bit of the trailer for Garden State. Now, unfortunately, I can't show the full trailer because the song There's Beauty in the Breakdown is playing through the majority of it, but I recommend checking out that full trailer because it's an amazing trailer. It got me really excited to see the movie, where you have Zach Braff here playing a 26-year-old actor-waiter who returns to his hometown in New Jersey after his mother dies. And Braff based the film off of his own real-life experiences. This was his directorial debut after the years he had been on Scrubs. This was when his career was starting to begin to take off as in the world of film. Because the following year he'd be in Chicken Little, he'd do The Last Kiss after that, and needless to say, this film unfortunately doesn't. This film's a great movie, but unfortunately after that, there was a long period of time where he really did not do anything of noteworthiness in terms of his film career, and it's a shame because the movie really is fantastic. Like I said before, this was a movie that for the longest time was in my top 30 favorite films of all time, before films like the Lego Movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse took this movie out of it. But it's a movie I always remember seeing the first trailers and just like, what is this movie that I'm seeing here? And when I finally got around to seeing it, I'm so glad that I did, because it just is a fantastically put together film. A great, solid romantic dramedy that benefits from this great ensemble that includes Braff, Natalie Portman, Peter Skarsgård, Ian Holm. It shows off the potential for what he could do as a writer and director that, unfortunately, like I said, never really took off after that. I mean, his film career in general really didn't take off. And, when he finally returned to direct a movie, Wish You Were Here, which actually came out 10 years after this movie did, I was so excited to see it because I had seen what he'd done with Garden State, and unfortunately he just never really could live up to that hype that he had with this movie, because what he did with this was just really groundbreaking. It's a visual wonder to look at. You also have a great... the cast also includes people like Gene Smart, Jackie Hoffman, Method Man, Ron Liebman, Dennis O'Hare, Jim Parsons, Ann Dowd, Armando Riesco. Just a fantastic, fantastic cast in general. A visual style that is just so incredibly well put together, as this very unique style of... He has this very unique style of handling this film in general. It's just a really good movie, a really fun, entertaining film that showcases what Zach Braff's capabilities of as a director could be at that time. When the movie came out, it was actually interesting that Natalie Portman's character, who I thought was really good, was seen as kind of the manic pixie dream girl trope. Now, if you don't know what that is, I didn't know what it is until I actually looked the movie up a long time ago when I was writing my written review for this. The whole idea is that it's a stock character type in fiction, usually depicted as a young woman with eccentric personality quirks who serves as the romantic interest for male protagonists, which, I mean, isn't that what most romantic comedy characters are? Females are in the case of this. I mean, they see it as like a trope, but I mean, I never really had a problem with it in general. And some say it's like they criticize it as like one-dimensional, existing only to provide emotional support to the protagonist or to teach him important life lessons while receiving nothing in return. And some people might think that, but honestly, it never really bothered me, because, like I said, that's what pretty much most romantic comedy female characters are in that case. I mean, they're there to be the emotional support to the main character, like give them a reason to go on this journey. And I really had no problem with it whatsoever. I thought Natalie Portman was very good in the film. She and Zach Braff have a lot of great chemistry together, and it really does show in this film. I mean, I think it's a wonderfully, wonderfully made film that really is very well done. It's a movie that may seem too much for people who expect more. It can be a little pretentious at times, but honestly, I thought it did it in more than just enough to really, really get me to really enjoy it as much as I did. I really thought that this was going to be something, when I first saw the trailers, I thought this was going to be something really, really good, and it really blew the expectations that I had for it going into it. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it the first time around, and how much the film would have an impact on me in terms of how I look in films in general. This was really my first independent film I really sought out to see, because this was, again, around the time when I was going to see movies on my own, and the chance to see this movie for the first time when it was coming out, and really giving me a chance to explore my output in terms of what kind of films I would like. I really found myself really enjoying this film. I think it's a really fantastic film, a visual wonder, great music, a great cast, just a great story to tell, a nice coming-of-age story. I can't recommend this one enough. Garden State is a film that I really do like a lot. Like I said, I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. You will not be disappointed by it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, Spike Lee's latest film, and that is She Hate Me.
You see this crease between my eyebrows? Yes, sir. That comes from worry. You're not going to deepen the crease, are you?
That phone call, bad idea.
Possible insider trading.
I can't let you through.
I'm still vice president.
You were vice president.
Your account is frozen. What? Your account, assets, everything.
Give me my money!
Hey, Jack.
Hello, Jack. What the hell are you doing here?
I want you to be the father of my child. Alex and I are feeling maternal.
Try a sperm bank.
Please, it's like shopping for Gucci at Walmart.
You're lesbians, right?
We're business women. We'll pay you.
I can't do this.
You just got canned. And your current net worth is somewhere between 0 and the gross national debt. I know how to increase your cash flow.
Have you lost your damn mind?
Willing to pay $10,000 each.
Sold.
Knocking up a bunch of lesbians? That's some freaky shit!
I think the trailer pretty much sums up a lot of the problems with the movie that we'll get to in just a little bit here, but this is She Hate Me, the latest film from Spike Lee, where you have Anthony Mackie as a Harvard-educated biotech executive, John Henry Jack Armstrong. I had to check just to make sure that that was actually the full name here, but no, that's the full name. I mean, it's that's what it is on IMDb and what it is on my original review here. But he gets fired when he's informed of his bosses launching an investigation into their business dealings by the Security and Exchange Commission. He's branded as a whistleblower and therefore unemployable, and Jack desperately needs to make a living. His former girlfriend Fatima, played by Kerry Washington, is a high-powered businesswoman and now a lesbian who offers him cash to impregnate her and her new girlfriend Alex. Jack is then persuaded by the chance to make easy money, word spread, and soon Jack is the baby-making business at $10,000 a try. Lesbians with a desire for motherhood and the cash to spare are lining up to seek his services. But between the attempts by his former employees to frame him for security fraud and his dubious fathering activities, Jack finds his life all at once becoming very complicated. Just like the movie itself. I didn't even show you the other half of the trailer where it turns into a courtroom film. Like, it literally, the film is all over the place, and you have a movie that thinks it's trying to be something deep and thought-provoking, but it really can't decide if it just wants to be that, or as the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes calls it, a sex farce. And even then, the sex stuff isn't even that great in general, but I'll delve into that in just a second. The performances, I think, are what carry the film over to where there is some likability to it. I like Anthony Mackie in here a lot. This was very early in his career, and, given a role like this, I think he does a very good job with the material given to him. I think most of the rest of the cast does a pretty good job with it, but unfortunately the material really isn't as strong as it could be. Back when I wrote my written review for this, I said the sex scenes were pretty effective, but watching it again as of late, I really think that they are not as good as I was thinking that they were before. Plus, if that's really all you came to see the movie for, just go online and look for them. I mean, go to Celebrity Movie Archive and you can easily find the most notable sex scenes in there. And even then, it's not that many. And this guy's pretty much living the dream of a porn actor. Like, you can watch a better version of this storyline done on Pornhub or Xvideos. I won't say that for the reasons that I've actually seen it before. I'm just go with it, okay? But anyway, it seems like Spike Lee just can't really seem to find the black motivation of the story he wants to tell. And I think that's really the biggest problem with the film. It's really hard to feel invested in what's going on if you can't tell what Spike Lee's trying to accomplish here. Because, like I said, sometimes it's a sex farce. Sometimes it's a movie about insider trading. Sometimes it's a courtroom movie. Sometimes it's a movie about betraying the mafia. John Turturro plays a mafia boss in here. Like, so much is going on in this movie, and they can't figure out one single solitary thing to do to keep the movie afloat in general, and they have to have all these really good talents involved in here. Like I said, Anthony Mackie, Kerry Washington, you have Jim Brown in here, John Turturro, Woody Harrelson, Ellen Barkin, Monica Bellucci, Dania Ramirez. I'm having trouble talking today. Brian Dennehy, Ossie Davis, Paula Jai Parker, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Bai Ling. A lot of really good talent in this movie. And it's just all over the place on what they're trying to accomplish here. Like, this is a movie that's very similar to something like Girl 6 and Bamboozle, where there are good ideas for a story here, but they don't know what kind of a story they want to tell. It never goes all the way with what they're trying to do. Is it supposed to be a satire of corruption and greed? Is it just an outlet for these sex scenes involving these lesbians? Is it a mafia movie? Is it a movie where you're following this guy's journey to some form of rise to prominence? But it never figures out what it wants to do with it, and it just has this, it's really not helping that it's very padded out too. It's a movie that's over 2 hours long, and it feels like a film that just is all over the place. Kind of like the review that I'm giving you right now, because I'm having trouble putting my words together here, but it feels like an eternity to sit through this movie. And this is a movie where I think Spike Lee is trying to do way too much for his own good, and there are some ideas that could be interesting, some ideas that could work in general, but it's a movie that just falls flat on its face, and it just feels like at times, it could be very offensive at times, but not in the way that a good Spike Lee movie should make you feel offended, but a way that's just like, you're really insulting my intelligence type of offensive. Like, this movie is so poorly put together, man. This is just a sloppy film. The things that they promise you don't work as well as they should. Like, yeah, the acting is what carries it to something of watchability, but even then, it's not worth it in the end to really sit through this film. Like, thank God all these actors would go on to do much bigger and better things down the road, because, man, this is just a movie that is such a colossal mess up of so many levels that it makes people like me screw around with my review for this. So, but I digress. She Hate Me, a movie that probably has some good ideas to it in general, but unfortunately, it just cannot live up to those expectations that it has going into it. And it just is a real cluster of a film in general, but luckily for Spike Lee, he would rebound nicely with his next film, and with the help of his good pal Denzel Washington, but we'll get to that when we get to 2006's Inside Man. As far as She Hate Me goes, you'd be better off just avoiding it.